Hey everybody, we're doing a little video here on the Hat Man and Hooded Figures, these two guys right here. Uh, Now, I have a bit of a different view on these things because of, my history in the, researching paranormal and looking at things from a different perspective. There's this huge thing, like, people talk about the Hat Man as if it was created as a joke, and then all of a sudden now it's fake. Like Rolling Stone here talks about how it went from a Benadryl joke to a TikTok horror villain. You gotta understand that this, and this have been around since before the internet. And yet somehow, modern uh, media is saying that it's something new. Shadow figures, hooded figures, the Hat Man, they've been around for a long time. Ed and Lorraine, they talk about shadow figures, the Hat Man, hooded figures all the time. They talked about it a lot, and even back when Ghost Hunters first came out, and even before that. I mean, it's been around for a long time. There's books about it from the 70s and 80s. So it's not something new, as the Rolling Stone would like people to believe. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. Sleep paralysis, hallucinations, stuff like that. And then you've got, history and folklore on it. And this is where my point of view differs. Okay, so a lot of the places that these figures are seen are tuberculosis hospitals, children's wards, funeral homes, places where children have passed, places where people have passed. They talk about how tall the Hat Man is. They're like, oh, well, he was 7, 8, 9 feet tall. Now, when you're looking at these two things, what comes to mind? The hooded figure, what comes to mind for me is the old nuns. When it comes to the Hat Man, I see priests, the old clergy, the old Spanish Catholic priests, because let's see, this is the style that they used to be in. This is still a popular style, but you have the wide brim hat, the collar, you have the stature, you have the lines, you have this cloak look to you. I mean, look at this. Look at it. Cloaked look. Cloaked look. This matches a lot of the descriptions. Now, why do I bring that up? Well, it's because there may be a created paranormal event. Kids were in these hospitals. They saw these towering people. Most clergy, like this guy here, they were, average sized men, 5'10", 6'2", and then they have these big tall hats. They stood upright and broad-shouldered. They were proud. Now imagine you're like a 3'6" kid dying, sitting in a chair or laying on a bed, and this guy walks into the room. It's a dark lit room. Most of the time, these places were poorly lit. He walks in out of the shadows and starts reading to you in Latin. You might be terrified. Now, the hooded figures. It's the same thing with the abbots, the Catholic priests. They wore the hoods, they wore the frock. Even the nuns wore hoods. Not all nuns had that big white thing. That was only specific nuns. Most were just a hood and a scarf. So that could lead into it as well. I mean, you have this destroyed mindset because you are dying and you're thinking everybody is death. Now, there have been a lot of incidents that are recorded at these places, like Penhurst, a lot of the tuberculosis places. I'm trying to think of the two hotels. One's in California, and then the other one is in New Mexico. Both of them had a history of paranormal, and they talk about people seeing these hat men and the shadow figures, and both of them had clergy that lived there. The Spanish building, it was one that the Ghost Adventures crew went to. That one, Spanish people were there all the time. It was a brothel, yet it was also a church at one time. Members of the church were killed during a big fight. And the thing is you've got to understand that you're matching all of these figures with evil. But look at this. This even matches. You've got all kinds of history talking about these shadow figures in a bad light. They talk about how they show up and people either die shortly after, as if it was the messenger of death, or their sleep paralysis and the figure comes in and stands over them, and then they wake up. Well, what if the sleep paralysis and this figure isn't bad? What if you are going through something and a priest who was not quite ready but still wants to protect is there guiding you? I mean, there's different types of shadow figures. Some that will hold you down and you feel fear. But what is the other side of this? What is the other side of it? You have shadow figures that represent or look like priests and nuns and abbots showing up at a time when you are fearful, and you're scared because they're there as a shadow figure. Not every shadow is bad. And I mean, sure, yeah, there could be a dark entity of some sort that is masking itself as a priest or a nun or an abbot or. But a lot of these incidents Like uh, the uh, the incident in the graveyard. They catch a hat man in the graveyard, and they freak out. They scream. They run. They're terrified, and then they find out that somebody was in the graveyard, and they had planned on doing harm to people, but was caught shortly after because the people that got scared away called the police because they thought somebody was there. And then it turns out that there was somebody there, but it was not the person that they saw. What if that hat man that they saw was a priest who scared them away just enough to draw attention to what was really happening? It wasn't an omen of death. It was a protective spirit. I mean, spirits can only show themselves in specific ways, and the shadow is the most obvious way of showing themselves. Knocks, bumps, equipment beeping, lights flickering. These are all ways. But somebody who has, that spiritual mindset, but is also not ready to go on and still wants to help, they might stay and try it their best. They talk about being caused by bipolar disorders and schizophrenia and all this other stuff, but a lot of the people that see these things are normal people. They're not, schizophrenics who are on medication. I mean, they're they're like, oh, it's based on meth addicts. Okay, how do you know that? These talk about all these recurring themes, fears and nightmares of teeth falling out, being chased, falling from great height, but they're always at the same time preceded by a shadow figure. And it's like the Hat Man. I mean, you look at this, and then you look at that. Oh, he has got red eyes. Well, there's versions: red eyes, white eyes, yellow eyes, gold eyes, eyes that reflect the light back at you, eyes that aren't there, where it's just the shadow stops existing there, like you could see through it at the eyes. It is really interesting, and a lot of these people, they have all these different views, but you have such a huge history of this, but nobody really talks about it, except for they'll do snippets in a paranormal investigation. They'll be like, okay, the Hat Man is this. It's been seen here, it's been seen here. And then they go on. And then everybody builds off of this. Well, it has to be something evil because it's a shadow figure. Well, not every shadow figure is evil, and not every shadow figure is a demon. I mean, there's no real evidence of either side. But what I'm getting at here is, what if there was a possibility that the Hat Man and the hooded figures that people see the most often, who don't do any harm, who just show themselves or guide people or even wake people up. People have talked about going through these sleep paralysis things where they wake up and they can't move and they feel dread and everything, and then they get they see the figure, they're scared, they're terrified, and the figure hovers over them, and then they jolt awake and something had happened. There's stories like that. What if these are helpful spirits? There's stories of people who went through the sleep paralysis. The figure is standing over them. The figure is placing a hand on their chest and getting in their face, and they could feel the breath, and they feel like it's screaming at them, and they jolt awake and they're upright and their house is on fire. Their children are screaming, somebody's trying to break in, something. What if it is something trying to help you, but that is how they show themselves? And it is an interesting look at things. And, give your opinion. I always welcome other people's opinions. Some people, their opinions don't matter to me, like the people that defend a specific prison that is known for faking evidence. But this is just my view of it. I mean, I have yet to see a single video or anything that says or shows that the Hat Man is evil. I mean, yes, you have movies and video games and stuff about the Hat Man and how evil he is, but all the other stories out there don't match up with that. So, I guess I'll talk to you guys later. You guys have fun. Enjoy your 4th of July. Don't blow any fingers off. And for God's sake, if the firework doesn't go off, don't look down the damn tube, because you don't need to be losing an eye. So, be safe out there, and thumbs up to everybody.